So this is originally from the 16th of the 5th month of 1434, and it's my comment to Harold Klemp's Youth Asks a Modern Prophet about life, love, and God. Youth Ask a Modern Prophet, it really says that, about life, love, and God by Harold Klemp makes for a nice summary of the Eckankar doctrine without going into many specifics of the myriad of spiritual exercises and psychedelic realm claims. As opposed to characters like Muhammad and the prophets before the International Age of Prophecy, like the ones we see in the Bible, Harold Klemp virtually has an answer for everything he's asked. Well, for whatever he's asked. Are they the right answers? Does he make it up as he goes along? Does he have help from what remains of other teachers and scholars of the past and present? Is he merely a scholar himself? Does he have any spiritual ability? Does he have any special talent with causing psychedelic experience in himself or others? This book should give you the ability to answer these and more questions about Harold Klemp for yourself. Introduction. Harold J. Klemp starts off by admitting that many who were before him were wise. Others have said to be healthy in youth, but he says to enjoy yourself. He speaks of the children and young adults as asking a lot of questions, too many questions. Although he implies that they are not spiritual, but saying that they aren't, an ek, our spirituality with God. Even the young outside Eckankar are not all on the path to hell. He admits that. He expresses the privilege he feels to share his answers to questions of the Eckankar viewpoint. As with virtually every book from the organization, Youth Ask a Modern Prophet about life, love, and God by Harold Klemp is said to be the explicit word of God. I will not try to rearrange my commentary and summary outside of the chapter divisions. I only seek to convey a religious message through this Eckankar work while reporting on what the book actually teaches. And my guest will give a Christian opinion of this, but how to live and make it in this world. Some problems in life are for purification. Others are to punish us. Negative attitudes can attract calamities. When we love the world, this might get better. When one can learn to have some happiness in the hardest of times. We have to be willing to risk failure to improve in life. Self-discipline takes time. One needs to find balance as one progresses. One shouldn't neglect purely spiritual matters. Sometimes a teacher may not have a personal approach, but one should be patient. Singing out of love for God may center you. Hu is a word for God in Egyptian that means authority. In Eckankar, they want you to picture their current leader as you do this. In Sanskrit, the word hu means invocation. In Semitic and Persian languages, hu means it, and is used as a pronoun like he, a genderless pronoun. Practicing Eckankar is spoken of as the only salvation. Is it, though? Why can't one gain enough of God's favor without picturing and dressing Harold Klemp or whoever heads Eckankar when one worships? Habits can be manifestations of ill emotions. Finding what good is missing from your life can fix an addiction. One has to be willing to work on yourself gradually. Love yourself for the good. Changing physically can give one respect for those who went through it themselves. One should grow stronger somehow as time goes on. Courage needs work. Not all guidance in dreams and visions is from God, but that doesn't mean one should be scared of experiencing what others don't seem to be experiencing. Harold Klemp and his sister had nightmares and saw apparitions when they were 12 to 15. He says to watch out for the one who does, for what one does and consumes before bedtime. Like don't drink coffee before going to bed. I think he mentions that. I'm not sure it's in this book. Paul Naranjan, or the blameless God of time, is said to give people negative experiences as part of serving God. Why would God need other gods if he's actually God? Why would God command someone to hurt and scare people to show them their weakness rather than enlighten or warn them? Quitting harmful ingredients and recreational drugs like caffeine can help our emotional, mental, and physical states. Changing surroundings and company we choose open us up to. Be an example for others. You know, the real Zionism. Be willing to develop your own variety or spiritual exercises. Find answers for yourself. Don't trust negative rumors. Sometimes being spiritually protected takes more than a ritual. And I'm here with Saturnal Mage, or as her Lzwvmmh name is Lzwvmmh. So, is there anything particular that you would like that you would draw attention to with an opinion that you have from what we've gone over thus far?
I just really like this microphone. I liked the talk about 1,000 violins being something that would make you, I don't know, self-aware of reality within being created by God if you were to witness such a thing being played.
Well, okay, that makes it something. I'm going to pull up the graphic for myself because it's messed with the color on your end, so we can, you know, talk about what the graphic actually says. But so the 1,000 violins is said to be like what, like the 8th degree of the order, which is supposed to be where self-realization happens. And the name of God for this plane is Eckankar Purusha, which is cosmic being. The sound, 1,000 violins. The Eckankar lock, so the reality realm. And Aluk is the spiritual world, which they give it. All and types of taste except sour. It's a weird translation, and a lot of stuff in other languages are like that. It's like, we'd like things to be one-to-one, but they're kind of not. But
so where does that stem from?
Basically, things are compiled here. Okay, these people did have dreams. I'm not necessarily doubting some of that, particularly how some of them were that I'm like, maybe that's not something that you like. You kind of like, okay, I had this bad experience and I'm going to let it go. You know, it's like being tortured on a bridge by entities in order to become the leader. I don't think, just like
Trolls? Bridge trolls?
Well, if by trolls you mean spirits. So he had some experience up on a bridge and he didn't jump. So.
Well, I mean, when I think of trolls and like stories, like old stories, I always think of like, or I mean bridges, I always think of trolls.
Like when you go to the park and you find people having sex under the bridge.
Thankfully, I've never encountered that.
It's not necessarily even if the woman's attractive, it's not necessarily something you want to come across. No.
I did, however, come across a 2-foot-long giant rotting salmon that was kind of plastered right in the middle of the sidewalk that I used to have to walk by every day to get to the bus.
Well, it used to be before the overfishing. There were giant salmon all the time. You'd feed a large family with one fish. For all, you know, that's your portion of fish for the week, the whole family.
Yeah.
Now the salmon are like, you know, 1 pound salmon or 2 pound salmon or something.
Yeah,
and
things are not going great for creatures on Earth.
But one certainly has to be admit. I guess one of the thing that you kind of drew attention to, I guess, is that, you know, you have certain experiences and stuff, and how that can open you up. I was raised like a lot of us were raised, that there are continuing experiences, but then again, they don't really have anything. Oh, you're not high enough up in the church, your experience doesn't count. It's like, I thought that was a pretty that sounds like as big as anything that's been had by church leaders in a long time. Why is it? But that's why, because this is, as a 12-year-old having dreams about a war that was going to happen in a few years, apparently that was part of it. It wasn't the main thing. But, you know, I was just told I wasn't high enough up in the church for those dreams to be important. That's literally what I was told.
That's pretty terrible.
But it was interesting.
Something, it shouldn't matter age, race. You shouldn't be discriminated essentially against.
It was
Anybody
interesting. It was
choosing this life.
interesting that there was a building. It could have also, if it dawned on the person, I thought, oh, that's a masjid, a mosque. It's because there are, those teardrop sort of, topped minaret sort of things. There was like one on each corner. There doesn't have to be more than one in a masjid. You only call the prayer for one unless you alternate or something, which is kind of. But it's kind of silly
I've never
having.
been to a masjid. How do I
Um,
say it? How do I say it
uh,
properly?
Masjid, MASJID.
D, like dog.
D is last
Masjid.
letter. Yeah, masjid.
Okay, I thought it was V, like what's a V word other than something obvious? Veruca Salt. Good band, by the way. Good band.
Which the song "All Hail Me" and "Cedar" does relate to that word that you're probably trying not to say. But that's not for the show. That song they sing about the blinds. Lenore, which of us is blind? Or Levanor. So they're.
Have you ever tried to sign in to see why it's suspended, by the way? Just mentioning Microsoft.
Microsoft, it told me that somehow I violated some term, but it won't tell me what I violated. And I bet it's.
Well, it says sign in to find out why you're suspended, but you're not suspended. It's different. Okay. It also has a link to submit a case review. Whoa, as soon as you said the word resume, I saw the word resume on my phone. So
one thing that two things that I'm sure that we've talked about a lot is, well, I've talked about the 4 poisons of the heart. People know that I'm into this ancient system of, well, not terribly ancient because I can't find references.
Oh, I wanted to mention that for some unknown reason, I started to try and sing kind of like an Egyptian tune to that word. And then as I heard you talking about it while I was singing, you mentioned that it had Egyptian roots, and I thought, how suitable. I had no idea.
Oh, the other program I
love Egyptian stuff.
The other program I suggested, there's actually a spiritual leader that looks like an Egyptian. That's really they say that this guy's a spiritual leader that looks like that's an Egyptian that looks like Fabio, but he has a Hindu name.
Oh my God, I've met him before.
Well, maybe that'd be a good story.
I had a protein shake with him and my mom. My mom was there.
And
like 2013 for Mother's Day, we were all together. I took my mom to meet him, and we all had like some protein smoothies that he was like trying to sell.
Okay, and, it's good you're clarifying that that's a literal reference.
What? Oh. No, my mom was into him. I just thought he was cool to talk to, but I didn't find him like sexually attractive or anything. I mean, that's gross to me because I grew up watching the commercial and I always thought he looked like a lion, like half man, half lion. And I thought that was cool about him, but that was like the extent of the physicality.
It's especially cool if you grow up with these. I didn't grow up with these Hindu stories about all this half lion, half man stuff and like incarnations of God that are half lion, half man. And you end
What's
up with,
the story about that like half horse, half man? Like what is it called?
Sagittarius?
Centaurs. Yes. No, yeah. That's not a T word, but centaurs. I want to know more about them spiritually.
Well, there's aspects of the stories that I don't know.
Centaurs was a creature from Greek mythology which was half man and half horse. The head and arms and torso were human, and joined at the waist to the body was the legs of a horse. These creatures represented barbarism and unbridled chaos and were frequently represented in Greek architectural sculpture and pottery decoration. Interesting.
Well, that's a bit more malicious of a thing than I typically think of the story. But if you're seeing a Wikipedia reference, sometimes those references might give you a little bit more of a feeling than.
This is from Ancient History Encyclopedia.
Which
it says other similar.
Well, it's a type of being.
It says they're represented with an exaggerated erection.
Okay. I knew that was going to come in. I was just so surprised it waited so long, that the sexual aspect of that. Like they name medication side effects. You may have too long of an erection if you take this medication, or you may have too much ejaculation, and they actually talk about the side effects with medication, and they name those side effects after the centaur story. But the centaur is only,
that says a lot to me.
Only the half horse, half man thing. There's different part human, part something else.
I think the grossest, like the most unattractive Greek mythology creature has probably got to be this one called the harpy. It's like half eagle, half man, but it also has titties. The fuck? Which half human and half bird personification.
Some of these things where they look at the letters, the spelling. Have you seen some of these drawings where people say, this is what an angel looks like because this is the letters of its name? And some of those are just something else. But they seem to always figure out a way to have nudity that just wouldn't be necessary in those drawings. Just like a lot of people saying, oh, it's just art. And it's like, why is the nudity necessary? It's not? Okay. Then it's something that just, is necessary for art. Now, it doesn't mean I'm saying that all that's pornographic, but a lot of stuff comes from, it's like you notice practically every tarot deck has nudity when it doesn't ever need nudity. The one deck that we were starting to do a series on, I don't think there's any nudity in that whole deck unless you say there's a naked animal there somewhere.
I was just realizing this the other day, and I was like, I'd really prefer a non-nude deck, not because I'm against nudity, but I don't want silly things hypersexualized just by nudity alone.
And the way that things are nowadays, you don't want the wide variety of men, women, and children. You really don't want that to be naked deck. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't like how in at least American culture, being naked is instantly like sexualized. Like it's always going to be sexual if you're naked. Like, no, because people bathe naked, people are born naked. Yeah. Like people swim naked. Like, you don't have to be hypersexualized if you're nude. That's why I like the local nudist camp in my area. Well, it's a very relaxing experience to just feel.
One could be careful. One could be careful who one exposes oneself to, but that's yeah.
Well, they highly filter people in and out, and
like I was saying in my show that I recorded yesterday, it's like, I think I have the right that when I'm here alone, if I want to walk around naked in my backyard, I should be able to walk naked around in my backyard.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
Without Google putting it the risk of
Google picking out and taking pictures of your Google
from the sky. Yeah, and the governments are even worse about it. The governments, Google, the governments have even more detailed pictures of everything from the sky, and it's like, I think I have the right to privacy in my own backyard. It's like if you have a hot tub and you use your hot tub, there shouldn't be pictures of you from the sky.
Yeah, totally.
Well,
I personally would put my hot tub in my garage with curtains to have that guaranteed privacy, but at the same time, the garage isn't the most relaxing place either.
But back to something more directly that we said. There's the two poisons of the heart, and they're talking about before you go to bed, and I would say spiritual exercises in general. It really affects things, what media you're exposed to, what you're allowing yourself to be exposed to beforehand. What?
Yeah, your stimuli should definitely be chosen and not just handed to you. like all these social media networks and apps do.
And
Because at that point, like, do you even think for yourself? You know, that's scary, because it means that you're literally being taken away from yourself with a whole new version of
what you eat,
freedom and privacy taken away.
all these medications, they want. The whole reason why coffee was pushed is because it keeps you awake long enough to do your. They don't care if you don't have as much energy when you get home. It's just to jolt you through the day. That's what they know. Coffee.
Well, you know, the term, the original term, the origin of the term rock and roll. People even say it to each other, like, yeah, rock and roll. But the actual term originates from an Egyptian term of when one would spend all day working, rolling rocks, like literally rolling boulders to build things. And so if you weren't rolling your rocks, then you weren't rock and rolling, and therefore you'd get in trouble. And somehow over the years that was glorified and personified.
Well, I'm not really going into it. Some of the stuff that used to be like a joke because they knew this was not realistic. Now people are like trying to, particularly with all these surgeries, trying to make themselves into what people used to make fun of. People used to make fun of a lot of these, a lot of these things, and they knew it wasn't healthy or any more pleasurable or anything like that, and they just, But yeah, what one exposes oneself before one goes to bed, it's like,
You okay over there?
yeah, I'm okay, and it affects the rest of one's life. And if you meditate, if one of the things that I totally agree with this organization with is that make your going to sleep and your sleeping a spiritual practice. So as you go to sleep, as you wake up, it's part of your spiritual practice. And so that's one of the goals of this organization is that
I really truly do find that praying upon waking up, essentially, or like during that first half hour of waking up and laying in bed, it makes my heart warm. It makes me feel grateful and thankful, and it really is a good start to the day versus focusing on, oh, what do I have to do today, or waking up in pain, or feeling bored, like, what do I do now I'm awake. Like, I suffer from that a lot because of depression and anxiety, but when I start my day with prayer, complete turnaround.
and it's and your choices before you're praying and meditating, all that,
You're so much more aware of yourself.
It makes things better, because honestly, remember how I was telling you that on the 23rd of September is like a birthday for me. And when I first started out, I honestly, commercial break. This is when I'm going to do my prayers and stuff. But then I realized doing that a lot of these shows were just not doing anything good for me. And I've just dropped off so much stuff in that respect. And I actually enjoy life a little bit better. I thought for a second that you had picked up a cat or something.
Well, I was trying to, and then she rejected me, and so I picked up my fuzzy fake chinchilla. This is actually my cat's stuffed animal. She cuddles with it and sleeps with it and nudges it, and it's so cute, but it's very soft. Anyway, when do I get to recite one of my favorite Halloween stories?
Well, I don't think your thing's old enough that we can do this on the thing. I can. I'll pause this and we get back.
What if I switched it up? How old does it have to be?
Like older than our parents, sort of thing.
Well, it's older than I am by 6 years.
Yeah, that's not old enough that we might not get flagged if we allow this the thing. Okay, let me sec.
What if I changed like their names and like the colors of things and the like?
Well, let's hold on and let's do a pause. Okay. Working on your habits, self-discipline. When should you question? What should you question? How do you seek your answers to your questions? What type of individual are we? Were we talking about with this relation with this figure? And so that is That's what's left as subject matter in
Okay.
short of what we talked
Which
about.
one?
Which of those did you want? Did you have further thought before
Anything.
or
I mean,
close?
are those questions for me or?
Well, in a way, they're questions because we're
Okay.
talking about your
I
further
mean,
thought on
I like
discipline
the
and.
first few particularly.
I think I started with a bit about discipline and building character, changing your character, that sort of thing. So
Yeah, I think in today's society, myself 100% included, there's a constant struggle between our identities, who we are, and what should we be, or what are we naturally, or what would we like to be, because we aren't accepting of our natural states. And it's a constant, you know, it's constant warfare on our spirits.
and if we practice some it's like we don't have to per se pick up some spiritual
We're
laws of
constantly
life
being
or
attacked, per se,
book of
by
commandments or
media, ads, television, newspapers, magazines, even hearsay. Even, people are walking around deeming themselves Instagram models just because they want to feel we're important. And I think, it makes the natural woman look bad in a sense, but it
well,
shouldn't.
even those models, they don't even not they paint them up like crazy and for hours and all this stuff, and then they talk about anybody who wants to keep themselves as
I mean,
oppressed.
there's a lot of things
Oh,
based on all of that that I've hated myself for years. But now that it's so extreme, I'm very happy with my natural self now. And I mean, I'm still, using makeup and hair dye and things like that. But I hope to get to a point where I can fully say no. I've definitely dimmed down things that I've been doing or using makeup per se.
well, you're definitely not at the state that a lot of people, a lot of people, particularly between 25 and 40, are, where you don't know what age they are. They have so much of a layer. It's like I don't
Yeah.
know what you. It's like some of these celebrities, they take off. It's like, oh, good.
Mhm.
Some of these people look
Yeah,
absolutely
you want to
scary.
look like, you don't want to use so much product or have surgery or anything to the point where you are literally a different person at the end of the day. Like, you shouldn't have to hide yourself and
But
change yourself.
most of it isn't that they're just so shockingly ugly that it's like making it so you don't know what they look like is what is actually an improvement.
Mhm.
Most people,
Also,
it's,
like the whole Instagram model thing, like there's like a stereotype based on Instagram model, like, really, really overly puffy full lips that are like 100% Botox and fake, and contoured cheeks and noses, and really overtly
and
flashy big eyelashes,
and
false
they,
eyelashes.
well, and there's all the editing, and it's like, yeah, it's like
I
people want
really can't understand what is
people
at the root
people
of that.
it's like one person that we've talked about. This is not the most important thing, duh, but uh, the fact that she looks better at 33, she still looks better than most women looked, in my opinion. And she's like, she wants to do all this editing and heavy makeup and everything else. And a lot of her pictures are edited through filters and various other things. Sometimes I think she spends like an hour or something editing her picture to look like a different person. And it's
Oh,
like,
unfortunately, that's the norm now.
and yeah, and then people are
I
so
think the
upset.
saddest part of
People are
it
so
all
obsessed with
is
the image
that
that
I think, like, the saddest part of that is that, like, they're literally wasting their lives just to be, like, liked or loved, or,
well,
false likeness, false love
we can
by
draw this,
strangers. What's the point
but
of that?
well, the one of the ways out is through practice. One can have. I think I can show the content page because I'm sure
I
the
think
content.
all of that would actually really, truly, deeply play into healing our inner child.
But it works into the other two things. Is that expression. People feel like they have to just go off and express all the time, all the time, all the time. Just keep
I'm
talking,
all
just to make
for
sure you're talking.
an art, but when
Don't
it
don't
comes
you
to changing
don't you
your identity,
what?
I said I'm all for art and expression, but when it comes to like literally trying to change your own identity, like that's where I would draw the line. That's too far. That's too much. It's too damaging to one's spirit.
What I mean is people just express. If you're not careful with your expression and the company thing, those are the other two poisons of the heart. So what you're consuming, what you're eating and drinking, and hopefully not smoking and stuff like this, but that sort of stuff, and really hoping not injecting. But the
I think I might actually be the first person out of at least 4 or 5 decades that I know of in both sides of my family that doesn't smoke or drink. Everyone in my family has some type of extreme addiction or multiple. And I think I was the first person to like break that.
I have German and Scottish ancestors, so there's 2 types of people in my family. Well, 3 actually.
German and Irish.
We've found some Irish actually, but I don't seem to show it. We'd have to trace out the thing, and you really can't tell Scottish from Irish. You can't tell a light-skinned Persian from a light-skinned Hindu half the time. So it's that sort of thing. Any one of the 5 tribes of Ireland and Scotland back in the day, you probably have ancestry with the other ones too. Anyways, largely because of that, there's 3 types of people in my family. People who do not drink and smoke at all, and that was never one of their things. Those who were basically hopelessly addicted, and those who were caught in an obvious addiction problem. There's only those 3 types of people in both sides of my family. My mother's side quit earlier, so there's not too much in the past couple decades or something. But that's just it, And most of the country has these problems, so it's and it's doing this thing where it's.
Is that your background thing?
Well, for some reason it's dark. It's
background.
It was leaving it pretty open. I think it's trying to decide whether or not to include the book. But yeah, those 2 poisons of the heart. The company. Me and you've talked. You can think of plenty of people that they've more or less ruined their lives because of their company. What they've been exposed to. What they do because they want to be the sort of person that will fit with that company.
Having fun with backgrounds now.
But they've I've switched away from the thing. But that's one of the things that's happened is that, I can, there's plenty of people that I can think, I think more of certain individuals than others, but they got hooked on drugs because the drugs, for at least a time, made them the sort of person that other people wanted them to be. It's like, I'm finally the people that other people are more accepting of, or something like this.
I know, and like it's sick. It's like a literal mental sickness. Because like you feel like achievement almost, but then at the same time you realize that it was all for nothing. And then since that's all you know, or that's all you've been doing for so long, it becomes an addiction. But it doesn't serve you, and it kills your spirit.
So, okay, well, since we have this book out, there's this has been divided into 3 sections, and one section is listed as the laws that speak of divine power and how it manifests in the universe. That kind of sounds like something you don't really have a choice of. It's just something it is.
Sorry.
And the second one is...
There's a bug in my face.
So after wisdom, there's laws of freedom, the laws that afford a smoother passage through everyday life. Oh, that definitely sounds like something you got a choice over, right? And the other one the laws of charity, sort of that the laws that bring a soul to a greater capacity to love. So these are your laws for other people. Laws of freedom, maybe this is just your relationship with God or something, but laws of charity obviously has to involve other people. So what without going through everything, what's your ideas on those three?
The part where you were talking about what others love or something like that. I'm sorry, I can't. I hear you and listening. I just can't like repeat it back very well.
Okay. Okay. So different things. The options that this book gives is basically initiate. You know what you do as a member or a person on the spiritual path. Trying to be creative. The what it means to be righteous. So you can stop me at any part. You got the you know, the sustaining code, what it means to be ethical, what it means to be an advanced individual, gratitude and love, which are, well, love's a bit harder to define, and I guess that's why there's
that one.
What?
That one. Gratitude and love.
Well, gratitude. You've heard of me talk about the mother, father, child stage, or maybe you don't remember too well that sort of thing.
No, but I mean, it sounds interesting.
Well, there's a way to talk about human development that your mother. Okay, obviously the father's like present or something too, but you know, or the mother's present with the other. But okay, you start off. You know, you can say in terms of religion, you got the stories. So the mother stage is the stories, and your mother teaches you relationship skills and to be grateful, basically. So that's one of that's that stage. The father stage, oh, I guess we can look at this as the father stage. The laws of wisdom would probably be the father stage. And the father stage is the rules and the skills. So you work on the rules and the skills, and your father prepares you for a trade in life or to go off and whatever job you're going to have. But that's the father stage. So the laws of wisdom, I guess, would be that. And the laws of freedom, I guess, if you're going to put one into each category, the smoother passes through life. And that's the stage where basically you're an adolescent or an older, is that you have independent morality, you have the ability to choose. Either you're going to develop what your parents gave you, or you're going to decide, wait a second, this is wrong, or this isn't for me, or whatever, and then you go live your life. It's called the child stage, but you're not really a child anymore. So that's sort of that system of development. Aleister Crowley talked about, came up, that's popularized that idea of thinking, and it's a functional way. So,
I mean, is it based on psychology or
it's sort of a psychological thing, but it's put in a spiritual context. And we put, you know, this book here. Well, I've told you that I've broken up the law sections into that. So so it talks about love in short. There's like 10 pages, so we're not going to read the whole thing.
You know, I still think it would be really interesting for me to anonymously call the unicorn lady number and just talk to them, answer their questions, see where it leads, you know?
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't...
like live, like on your video.
Oh, so okay, well, we can think about that as something else. There's notes. So the person that I got this book has, okay, I don't know what this song is, so I'm going to just try to, no matter what happens, you can always give love. Something about, I don't know how that would continue, but you got to, there's probably something like dove and above and stuff like that.
I'm trying to see how the background reacts, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you've done that with backgrounds, and I've noticed that, and people appreciate that. I think. Is that
Let's put a really creepy picture. Oh, look, I look cut. Whoa, there's a lip in my hand. Okay.
So the one thing that people don't realize is you
Oh, I
have
like this one. Oh yeah.
NG, and there's the A over there. Oh, you can't. I'm not pointing on your screen. I keep forgetting that the pointer, the pointer on the screen of the program doesn't indicate where I'm going.
My floating head. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So.
I'm not sure if that's supposed to be spelling something, because Ungda or something. I
On
would
the face or on your page?
on your picture there. So
I have no clue. I think I Googled like, elven girl or something like that. I really like that art type, that conceptual fairy art.
Well, by fairies, a lot of people worship the fairies, so that's what I'm wondering there, what message they're getting across with that one, because I don't know Old German.
I really don't know.
But one thing that's apparent, like I talk about I didn't do it too as well as I perhaps have, but I have it up, the Sermon on the Couch. And so the verses of love, the first verse I go into in that sermon basically says how it's that when you love God more, basically the point of that verse is that when you love God more than all else, I keep getting distracted, so I'm sorry, people. When you love God more than all else, basically that deals with the whole thing. You're showing yourself enough love. You're showing creation enough love. You're not a psychopath. You're not a sociopath. When you deal with that issue, that's what this gets me thinking. Is that, yeah. Is that so? One of the in Eckankar they talk about, if you give love, you get love, and there's always more love to give, and that sort of thing. So the more, and they talk very much. They ramble. It's sort of a rambling sort of thing that there's not really much content to it. It's just love, 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 but not really. A couple sayings encompasses 30 other sayings. So what I was talking about was something a bit more practical in that regard, but we're in the area of we're in the area of gratitude. So gratitude's sort of a similar category thing, right? Don't you? Or do you think of something gratitude as in a different area than love?
Gratitude is definitely along the lines of love, but it's also
particularly conditional love.
No. I say no because it could be present with any type of love.
Oh, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that gratitude is more of a gratitude because of sort of thing.
I don't know. Perhaps it's situational then.
But yeah, it's like it may not be necessary, but like it's like some people. It's like I feel like if someone's helpful or that sort of thing, I'm sure on at least occasion to make sure that my gratitude is made known. Invoking blessings that or whatever, it's made known that that I appreciate. Because even though if you're helping people out, there's a spiritual reward and all that other stuff. It's people still need to hear. And some people are like the opposite of grateful. They're like, no matter how difficult it is on someone and all this other stuff that they're helping or they're giving up their time or whatever the deal is, that people are like, why aren't you giving up more time? Why why aren't you giving up all your spare energy to serve me? Like I was telling
So that's definitely psychopathic or sociopathic.
well, usually psychopathic, because people are like, I don't care, I want what I want, and I don't care about your feelings. I just want what I want. And as I was saying yesterday with someone, that, you know, when you're in a relationship, one of the last things that you're going to want is you don't want somebody that that's going to either to expect them to serve you for hours a day on and whatnot, or the other way around. And it's just not worth it. You got to wait for people for hours and all this other stuff, and just, you know, what you're you know, particularly a marriage. It's like, you don't want to marry somebody just because you figure you can tolerate having sex with them, and then you go off and then you have to put up with all sorts of stuff that's just, you know, you don't like him as a person. You just, no, you got to have something more than that.
Yeah.
And so, literally, some people talk like that. If you just find somebody you can tolerate having sex with, and maybe falling asleep, but you don't have to be. It doesn't have to be someone you want to spend
Again,
time
I
with.
think that's sociopathic to think that
Um,
way.
Well, sociopathic would be like they think that society wants that of them. And honestly, if I was sort of a sociopath, I would have got married, because there were people who wanted me to marry somebody, and it's like, I didn't think it was a good idea for me. I didn't think it was a healthy choice for me, but they thought, yeah, it's like, I'm not marrying somebody just to be married. What?
So it's definitely a personal choice.
Okay. So any other laws, any other categories? Oh, silence, I guess. Sometimes inaction, because don't you agree, one of the important things, rather than just like I talked about, if you be careful with your expression, sometimes that means just not, oh, I got to do something to fill the space. I have to be loud or moving or talking or something. Sometimes silence is exactly what you need to do for other people. It's what you need to do for yourself.
Definitely, because we're all coexisting, all feeling a million different things, and
it's like the point of my interviews, the ones that were publicized, the ones that weren't, what they were for, they weren't there for. Okay. So is that any other other thoughts of what you think a spiritual leader is, or how you should start the path, or anything else?
Start by being fully aware of what is around you in your home. You know, I'm not a saint. You can probably tell just from back here. I have Halloween decorations. However, there was a few years where I understood Halloween to be kind of a glorified celebration of death. And I'm not 100% certain if I'm right or not, but in the same sense, that can't be of God. So what was it of? You know, there's kind of either
a certain thing. It's
your belongings in your house.
Yeah.
Know what certain creatures mean. Know what certain symbolism, what it means. Be aware of symbolism. Look up symbolism. And
it's like people don't notice stuff, and they post out in public.
Recognize symbolism. You know, it's all over. It's on all of your Google-owned apps.
You know what's happening this year?
Bands, Red Hot Chili.
You know what's what is it? Is NBC's the one with the peacock? They're not doing because of the reductions with what's going on this year. They're putting peacock statues instead of Christmas trees. And you know what the peacock
Christmas
statue
trees
is?
are already originally a pagan ritual. So
I don't think they were pagan. I just don't think they were Christian.
Well, like a true Christian wouldn't have.
Well, the Bible has
wouldn't have a Christmas tree.
The Bible has verses that point out why you don't have a Christmas tree. They're all in this what they call the Old Testament, but that's what they have. But living an ethic thing and knowing where your ethics come from, don't just celebrate things willy-nilly.
Yeah, don't be complacent.
It's like every other church holiday is like that, you know. Is that there was something else going on and they wanted to compete with it?
Well, all the churches nowadays are infiltrated, so You're better studying on your own for the most part, or just with your family or a close friend.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Instead of picking up some doctrinal book, and figure out, okay, what spiritual laws and what are the reasons
And
for these things.
here's a big misconception. You shouldn't have to belong to any specific church in order to ask to be baptized. A lot of them will quiz you on why do you want to do it and this and that. It shouldn't be questioned. It should be done without hesitation if one is willingly asking for it. You shouldn't have to join some special study group or
Yeah.
or pay 10%.
Some churches, one of the things they implement, the Catholics, it started with the Catholics. The Catholics would make you wait a year or two before you were a full member and could take the sacrament and take part of all the
that's
regular
the part
things.
that's all wrong.
And so many churches have adapted that, is they make you take a class, sit down and take a class.
That's wrong.
And before you, when I was a teenager, I baptized somebody. I wasn't sanctioned. I wasn't told by my church that this was okay to do, but I was of the rank.
If two people are knowing and consensual, it should be able to be done. It shouldn't have to be any particular higher member or anything like that.
I also don't agree.
I would let you baptize me. It's that simple. It's like the old
I
movies
was raised this way, but it's something that I agree with by reason. Infant baptism, no. None of this dunking some kid in some in some. I don't care if it's shallow. You're making sure the kid's all totally wet because you're dunking them repeatedly from different angles in the dish, and the stuff you see on the internet of.
Well, that's like that party where people get together to literally cut the tip of a baby boy's dongle off. Ugh.
Well, that was something that was
necessary. God created it just fine.
Well, that's what I keep saying. There's two verses in the scripture for this age. One said one talks about, you want to be upon the nature, the pure nature that God created you on, and the other verse is that God didn't create anything in vain. So some people have some defect or something and have some surgery, but that's one in thousands of people. One in thousands of baby girls, one in thousands of baby boys.
Also, it can prove of his existence if that person still has the same heart. It's not about physicality, it's about mentally, physically speaking. Not a physical part,
it's we all have bodies. It's what you do with the bodies.
There was something in the Bible that I read that really made sense, and it was basically talking about, like, if you have an illness or whatever, use that to glorify God, to say, hey, I'm still here. God is still good. God is still blessing me, regardless of like illness or disease or whatever. Like, a lot of people get mad, at God for, like, saying, oh, well, how could God create a world where everybody has got cancer or something? It's like, well, that part was really Satan's work, because he infiltrated this place, making it so toxic that God's original creation.
Well, so many people are getting cancer because they're not eating right. They're doing drugs. There's chemicals and everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of satanic things happening right under our nose.
So in that respect, and honestly, most very few, relatively few people, either because of the actions of someone else or because of their own actions, aren't dying at a younger age because of decisions.
My cats are freaking me out. They're all, like, looking down the hallway and, like, there's nothing down there.
Well, I told you the other night my contemplative readings in particular. So I'm there reading scriptures in the dark in foreign language, and the cat's all snuggling up to me while I read and acting differently with some stuff versus other stuff, and it was interesting. There's a story, I don't know if it's going to come up, but I do remember it at this time. There's an Eckankar story where the guy's the woman's cat is this guy reading the story about the bridge thing that I was telling you about, that where the beings came and shocked him and basically really tortured him hardcore to supposedly prepare him for his role in this organization. Is the doctrine, and the cat was freaking out while the woman was reading it. So the cat kind of was picking up that this something's going on here, and sometimes animals are like that, good or bad or different or whatnot. They've they notice your spiritual things. It's like the whole fear thing. It's like fear for it's like guilt, shame, and fear are things that you just don't be afraid, be guilty, be ashamed for just the sake of being guilty and ashamed. You don't seek out those things per se. You deal with the issues of life. Sometimes you have to go into some dark areas and maybe, but you don't have to do it to just, it's like horror movies. Why are we just watching stuff just to be scared and
I know.
and God forbid become comfortable with the idea of serial killers? And I came across,
I've always found them to be intriguing, but it's because they're so wrong that I get obsessed with trying to understand it,
And the thing is, unless it's something like a Jeffrey Dahmer or a Charles Manson or something, people don't see it coming. They should have seen it coming with Dahmer and Manson, because they should have dealt with that before it happened, because there was other serious crime. They should have been removed from society. None of this, oh, Charles Manson will stop raping people when he gets out of prison. Jeffrey Dahmer won't rape anybody once he leaves the army. He'll get, his act will get together. No, it won't. No, it didn't. What type of person thinks that we don't need to stick him in the brig for 10 years to?
For some reason, the sickest tactic of them all that remains with me is, I think, Ted Bundy pretending to have a broken arm or something, and getting someone to help him carry a briefcase down a dark alley, which he then beat them to death with, or at least unconscious. To pretend to have a disability so as to get help is sick enough.
Yeah.
But then to, incorporate that into using it to kill someone.
And the thing with this stuff is either people that are using it just for stuff they don't need, or stuff that's not good, like drug addicts faking that they're in need, some of them will take off a shoe and or put a tear in their clothes to get more money begging. And
yeah, I noticed that with this particular person in a different state I used to live in, and I remember them acting like, they're impoverished, they were hungry, they were poor, they were wearing ratty clothes, they had no shoes, they had a cardboard sign. But literally, and I lived in the area that they would work in, and literally multiple times, I'd see them go to their car, and drive home to a literal house, not an apartment, a house, to which they would change their clothes and then have a regular evening with their family.
And the vast majority,
and it just baffled me, and I paid attention to that guy a lot of times to know what was up. It's just so baffling. He had a house with kids and a wife and a car. And me, growing up on low-income housing and food stamps, we didn't have a car. We only had
and now the people in partially because they can put some people, there'll be 1,000 people.
Being in need is one thing, but then begging when you don't need it at all is so.
There'll be 1,000 people in need, and they'll put one of these stories on the thing. Oh, this rich person collects Social Security, or this rich person's a beggar, or something like this, and they'll put some story like that, and then they'll use that to help push this stuff, like the fact that they arranged places in most states. You can find reference to them directing the government housing towards people who are working for a living. Walmart and all these other jobs, they should pay people to the point where they can live wherever they're working. Thank you very much. No government benefits should have to go towards people who are working for a living. And they certainly shouldn't keep people inside at night. And, oh, you can't leave between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. You have to stay inside year round because you're in government housing. We lock the front door of the complex. So, there's issues like that. But if people have ethics, I think one of the things, ethics, spiritual principles. That's why I guess they start with spiritual principles. Because if you have if you're into all those spiritual realms and there's God and there's aspects of God and stuff like this, those things break into follow into different areas. It's like, oh, then I got to take charge, and then I got to involve myself with other people. Some of these things, they just expand upon each other. Because some people, they won't get their act together in any other way until they start praying, you know, or they start meditating. And so I guess that's it with the program. So
yeah, I gotta get going.